This is First Contact, Stories of the Call Center.
But let's kind of shift a little bit now to the overarching role that many people will box in and say sales, right? Well, Frank, you're in sales, right? Or Christian, you're in sales because your role functions with selling somebody a service or something, right? But I think sales gets a bad rap because the perception behind sales is that someone is selling me something and I'm not participating in this interaction. It's just happening to me, right? And that always has a negative feel when it's especially something that really doesn't add value to your day. So when we talk about sales and the roles you've had and the role you have today, and even the things that I experience, what is it that you see works really well when you go out and you interact with people for the first time? And it's not like, oh, you're just another sales guy coming in trying to sell me something, right? You're just trying to sell me, right? What is it that, obviously your title doesn't say sales. Obviously the connotation around being sold is never fun. So what is it that you're doing, the business is doing? I know you said that you're more consultative and you're learning from mistakes, but what is it that makes it so that you differentiate from being that salesperson?
So I think you and I probably have, in that question, would probably have somewhat of a similar but different answer, because you are who you are with a supplier, and I am who I am with what should be a very agnostic sales approach. And my sale is not so much I have the better mousetrap. My sale is, this is going to be something that you're going to have to go and do. It's something you may not know what you don't know. It's something that you have to understand and digest a whole lot of people talking to you at once that all have really great solutions, and you're going to use outside expertise to come to an understanding, but it's still on your plate to do. So my sales process, and I think where the value for me comes in, is if someone says to me, Frank, who's your competition? My competition is the client going and just doing it alone, right? And what we bring to the table is we bring the ability for them to instantly catch up on experience that they just don't have, right? And I think that comfort level, and us being able to give them that comfort level that, hey, you're not in this alone. We will help you with the needs assessment. We will help you with the current state analysis. We will write the RFP, manage the RFP. Before you even talk to a vendor, you will know who best matches your technical and your usability requirements before you ever speak to them. Right? To me, if I can get people to understand that, then the whole financial model about how we work, how we get paid, and how we will stay involved and how we will not be involved is an easier process than, say, for example, like any old vendor who has to go sell them. Our pitch is very different in that regard. So I think it helps us, and I think it's hugely valuable for them to look at us and say, they're going to ride next to me this whole time. They're never going to leave. This project, and people will put their hand up and be like, Frank, we're 9 months to 18 months away from going live. How are you going to make money? Well, we invest the time in this, so we have clients that will go 18 months before we see a single check. And it takes a little bit of time to get some buy-in on that.
So let's kind of unwrap that a little bit, because I think a lot of times, regardless if you make the decision to do it in-house or bring on CloudLinx into the fold, there's time, effort, resources, and expertise that needs to happen to be able to make these decisions, right? And to hopefully make the right decision. Many times, because there's so many vendors in the industry, people will just go like, well, let me do some quick research. Let me Google some names. Let me go see what I've used before, or maybe someone has experience with one of these. But all those things really don't go back to what you just said, which was, what are you going to try to achieve? What are your goals? What are the different stakeholders' goals? So from your perspective, when you look back and say, okay, why would someone want to do it in-house versus bring someone in? Can you quantify at all the amount of time and resources and effort a change like this would take nowadays?
I mean, it's enormous. Like, to put a dollar amount to it is kind of tough, right?
But timing and effort. Like, are you saying, one person could go out, do the research and kind of say, hey, everybody did the research. This is the one we should go with. Let's go for it.
Yeah. I mean, like, done. I read a book. There you go. Right. It's not really, I wouldn't say that's the way to approach it. The way I look at this is, there's 2 or 3 sides to this process that you have to go if you're going to make a migration to CCaaS. And I'd be interested to see your take on this too. But you have the pure selection of the vendor, right? I got to find the right vendor for my business. It's not going to be the one that everyone else is using potentially, but it's got to be the one that's right for me. Then you've got the running of the day-to-day business. You got to keep the lights on. You've got to keep doing your day-to-day job. And then you've got the whole what I don't know, right? The processes, the procedures, your integrations, your dependencies, your CRM. You got all those things that have to work together. And no one person, I think, can sit there and say, I've got all three of those covered. Don't worry about it. I'm going to do it. No problem. It's a lot. So I think one of the biggest things that we bring to the table is we're going to do part one. We're going to understand your business. We're going to understand how you're doing your business and why you're doing your business. And we're going to help you find the right supplier. When we come in to see you, we're going to hand you a list of paper and say, do you have this part covered? Which is understanding the operational complexities of change management. Is your CRM up to date? Do you have your lists organized? Do you have your client data organized? Do you know if a client's in China or do you know if a client's in Jersey? You have to have all those stuff detailed out. So let us work on our part, which will allow you to do this part better so that when it's time to make the switch, we can meet and have a successful project. To me, that's really hugely valuable in all three of those elements.
Yeah, it is, especially when you're so early in the process, right? Because
Absolutely.
It's rare unless, from a vendor's perspective, unless you're the one creating that change, meaning you've made them realize something that they could do that they don't do today that would be impactful to their business, or you've been in there and you've been able to engage them through being able to see that their business really is hurting in some way, right? There's something wrong with their business enough that change is not only probably something they should do, but they're probably actively looking. If you're in that early, then sure, you can become probably part of the part to help guide if you have the right expertise and you really believe that helping the customer is the utmost important thing. Because we're not everyone's cup of tea. We're not the best fit for everybody. And I think the sooner that a vendor can realize that, the better you're going to serve that company. Because right then and there whether you're doing it on behalf of yourself or behalf of the customer. Now, in your scenario,
Christian, I think, honestly, the deals that you and I have talked about, I think that principle you just brought there is hugely valuable, right? And that's where some of the negative connotation earlier about sales becomes, because what's a sales guy's job? Even if they say they're consultatively selling, a sales guy's job is to crowbar them into that sale no matter what, right? I'm going to fit into that glass slipper no matter what. And if it works, no matter what, it's going to get in there. But your job, and I think what you've said is, listen, we're not right for everybody. So it's better for us to lose quick because we're not the right fit. And ultimately, it'll be the wrong sale for the wrong client, right? And that's where I think you've done a great job in saying, we're not everyone's cup of tea. We have to do what's right for that client. Otherwise, they're just going to wind up hating us in the end. I want to give that tremendous credit to you guys on that.
Well, I'll take hate all day long for a variety of reasons, right? That sometimes could be genuine. But here's the real thing. You said it earlier. Going in there and putting in some circuits or some PRIs or SD-WAN or whatever, sometimes you have backups. It's behind the scenes. It's not as visible. It's not as tangible. But the CCaaS, I mean, you could break a business. You can literally kill their company, kill their experience with their customers, kill their revenue stream. It's not something simple. And people don't just go like, oh, I feel like I'm going to put my reputation on the line and go choose another vendor today just because I don't like what I have. We're creatures of habit. We get stuck with what we have. We learn to know what we deal with, even if it's not perfect, because the model is not broken enough where we're literally losing money every day and we're incapable of functioning as a business. So to make that change, you have to make sure at this point in the decision making is if you bring in CloudLinx and you look at how do I approach this holistically, as a whole core of my business and then go out to look for vendors, then that helps in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that say, I'm going to do this myself. And I'm not saying unfortunately, I mean, it's not a good decision, is that many times what happens is in those scenarios is you said earlier, they got to keep the lights on in that second pillar. They got to run the business. It takes a lot of time to properly vet internally what the business needs and what you're going to do. And that last pillar you said, you don't know what you don't know. I don't know how many people that you're going to run into that have done this 10, 15, 20 times, where they've vetted a lot of companies already. They've implemented a lot of companies. They've learned from those mistakes. They've seen with what went wrong, right? And those are costly, both in time, money, and the experience of your customers.